Hi there, I'm making a video to help you with your final project and to show you that it's actually a pretty easy thing to do. Especially the first one where I told you that you could just have whole notes in each measure and the top voice can also be whole notes. So that's the first thing that we have to understand is that we're going to make a progression. I said you could use primary triads, but you don't have to use primary triads. So I'm going to make one that has one secondary triad, and I'll show you that. So I decided to use the 1 chord, the 6 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. The first thing I have to do is understand the spelling of each chord, because the only thing I can put up here in the soprano that I'm going to make is going to be things that belong in the chord. Okay? And then I have to understand the root relationship between each chord. So by now you should be able to understand that if I go from 1 to 6, if I go down to 6, that's a third. So these are roots a third apart. There will be 2 common tones. If I go from 6 to 4, that's also down a third. So I will have 2 common tones again. But when I go from 4 to 5, I have no common tones, and of course you know by now that if the bass moves up, the other voices move down. I decided to start on E, sol, because A, C sharp, E, and then the 6th chord is F sharp, A, C sharp. So I decided to have contrary motion here. And then I decided, since F sharp is a common tone to 4, I kept the common tone. Now, going here, you might be tempted to go 4 to 5, and that might sound pretty good. But as you can see, this is 4 to 5. So that might be dangerous, okay? So probably, it looks like I should change this to that, to do, because the roots are a second apart. So this goes up, that should go down. Well, since there's only a fifth between the A and the E, I'm kind of forced to put the C sharp below, that's the next available chord tone, and then I need to double my root, so I make it a unison here. And this is how you would show that I have the bass and the tenor in the same voice. Now I have to go to connect this chord to the 6th chord, and as you can see, I have a common tone, F sharp, A, C sharp. So the C sharp is a common tone. So that's the first thing I would do, is I would keep that common tone, right? And then here, A is a common tone, so one of my A's now can go here. Okay, so now I've gone successfully from 1 to 6. Now 6 to 4 also has 2 common tones. And as you can see, it would be D, F sharp, A. Well, I have a D and I have an F sharp, so I need another D. Well, what I try to do is I try to connect things. And if this is a common tone, the A, so I'm going to go to the A there. And so that leaves me needing to have a D here in order to double the root, because remember, we're supposed to double the root each time. Okay? So now I'm going to go 4 to 5, and as you know, when the bass moves up, the other voices move down. So once again, I've got A, C sharp, E, G sharp, B in my chord spelling, E, G sharp, B. Well, if I go down, the next thing I would go to here would be this, and then this note A would go down to G sharp. And so you'll notice that I have absolutely doubled the root, gone contrary motion. Here I kept the 2 common tones. So this is going to be a successful project, first part. Okay, it doesn't sound like much, but later we'll talk about trying to elaborate it a little bit. But right now, this is what your final project, this is the first phrase of your final project. So I'm just going to show you, well, what I want to do now is maybe make something contrasting, right? And maybe instead of starting on E here, I could start on, oh, I don't know, let's try C sharp. Okay, and then we're going to have to make up a new progression. So I'm going to make up a new progression. It's going to have to end on 1 this time. Remember that I can basically use this same progression up here, but I can make everything go faster by half notes here. So I'll show you that. So here I decided, okay, I'll show you what that would be like. And I just took the same absolute progression, right? Except when I got to this measure, I made the harmonic rhythm half notes. So I have 2 chords in this measure. And so that way I can go 5-1 here and have my second phrase, which I should probably make a PAC. Okay, so I'm going to try to see if I can end on scale degree 1 over here. Okay, so I showed you that I'm going to keep the 2 common tones. So A, C sharp, E. I put the C sharp on top this time, and I'm going to keep that there. Okay, now the 4 chord is D, F sharp, A. So I'm going to have to change my note here, but probably I'm going to go to a D here. Okay, I would probably go to a D there. It's going to be a half note because I have a half note there. Okay, and then it's going to be E, G sharp, B, right? So I would go to the B, see, because that's contrary motion to the bass line. And then I can do a PAC. I could also go, if I wanted a skip or something, I could actually maybe do this, but that I see I might have a problem with that. So I think I'll just stick with that. This is going to require some fudging around over here, but we'll see. So as you can see, I basically, because I started here, I close voice under here, and so I have basically my I have the alto. I need to put the tenor in. Okay, so I'm going to put the tenor in now, and I'll show you what happens there. So as you can see here, I basically close voiced under the soprano. So there was an A right below the C sharp, and then the next available chord tone is an E. That's got to be up here, okay? And that's nothing to worry about. We can do that. Could also have put the A, double the A again, and put the E put the E there and put the A way down here and opened up the spacing, okay? I'll show you what that would look like. Basically on that one, I would have, I could also have had this voicing. This would have been perfectly okay. So I could do that, and then this, of course, I'd have to double the root, basically, according to our rules. And so I would just do it like that, okay? So I could also do that, and it would kind of change what happens, you know, next, of course. But we'll just go back to what we had here. There we go. So I close voice under the soprano, and notice that now my tenor is kind of high, but it's not that bad. It's you know, maybe this was not a great key to pick, but it's okay. So again, these are roots a third apart, and so I kept the 2 common tones. Then 6-4, the roots are also a third apart, so I kept the 2 common tones again in the same voice, as you can see. Then here's roots a 4th or 5th apart. I mean, roots a second apart, so I went up this way and down that way, and I ended up here. And here's, I had to go 2 to 1 in the soprano, and because of that, I have to do a different type of connection between 5 and 1. There's a second way to do it in which the common tone is not kept, okay? The common tone here is the E, okay? So I'm not going to keep the common tone. In that case, all the voices move in the same direction with no leap greater than a third. So let's see, the E moved down a third, the G sharp moved down a third, and the B moved down a second. So they all moved in the same direction, And it's because I didn't keep the common tone that I had to do that. So now let's listen to our entire our project.